السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. الحمد لله. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We are so blessed to have Imam Suhaib here. He had a long day, so go easy on him. Inshallah, we're going to delay the salah for a little bit, Salat al-Isha. If there's anybody who would like to pray on time, some people need to go work or get some weekend groceries or something, you can go to the NPR, inshallah, and pray. But we are going to delay the Isha, inshallah, if we need to. And I will ask people to make some room, inshallah, if you can move around. I see it's really tight, but just move a little bit if you can. All right, so here we go. Inshallah, we're going to start with Imam Suhaib. He's really tired right now, and he asked me to take care of the night. I said, no, dude, I'm not doing that. So, all right, Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Before we start, is there like some seating problem or something? Like, sister, you trying to make more space? Yeah, just trying to make sure we take care of everybody. And before also we start, I was told that Sheikh Atif was gonna like give this lecture with me. So what happened? But he like bailed. Like give a guy the day off, man. He's like, you like Chuck E. Cheese earlier and stuff? You like watching Transformers and stuff. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his family, his companions, and those who follow them until the end of time. So before we start, again, I try to say this almost every time because I mean it. I really hope you understand the value and benefit of having an Imam like Atif in your community. And the reason I say that is like Imam Atif actually likes people. No, seriously, like there's some Imams that don't like people. And no, seriously, you can tell like they don't like people. But Imam Atif is someone who like really loves people. And that's one of the most important qualities of being in this position. There's a lot of people here, you know. So I know it sounds simple, it may sound even a little bit unworthy, but like to have someone who actually like really cares about you is like a blessing. Especially when it comes to religious leadership. And then secondly, to have someone who's not gonna like play you out. You know, like you can trust him, man. You can trust Imam Atif with your kids, you know. You can trust him to teach you. You can trust him to like try to find you the best answers to problems. And I know again, I think like the experience of this community has like taught you what it's like to like not have like a leader for a long time. You know, so that when you get one, then you'd be like, man, this leader's amazing. And I think Imam Atif is one of those people who's like, he has that ability to like really care for people and then like to serve people. So like, even though I've been here all day, I'll be honest with you, like when I was an Imam, if like Nu'man Ali Khan came, I was out, dude. I was gone. I was out playing ball. You know what I'm saying? I'm out doing laser tag. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, Nu'man Ali Khan's in town. I'm out, you know. You know, Yasmin Mugahed, like, shh, I'm gonna travel, so I don't have to pray Jummah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm out. But like, even though I've been here all day, like, he's been here all day. You know what I mean? And he doesn't have to be here. Like, it's very rare that you get a Friday with your family as a leader. So I really just want to, again, you know, kind of remind people of how awesome your Imam is, how it's very hard to find an Imam like him now in America, to be honest with you. And to like to appreciate him, you know? And the best way to appreciate him is like to attend his halaqas regularly, to like support him in that way. Oftentimes imams, you'd be surprised what makes them feel valued. Like, I think most of the imams that we talk to, when we ask them like, what makes you feel valued? Like, people like study with me. People like take the time to actually attend, you know, like my lectures and my courses, my classes. So I hope, inshallah, that, you know, you're gonna take advantage of him and utilize him, inshallah. I really love him a lot, you know, and I appreciate the sacrifice that he and his wife make for our community. And I ask Allah to bless you and bless her and your child, and inshallah, you know, to help us make sure that we utilize you in the best way. With that in mind, just a few thoughts, inshallah, and then I think we'll pass it to you, and then, you know, we'll open it for questions and answers. But, you know, we're talking about, I guess the topic is like maintaining focus. And I think that, you know, when you talk about maintaining focus, we live in an age now, which is an age which many social scholars have called like a liquid age. It's an age which has like what's called liquid life. And what they meant by that is like, it's a life that doesn't have any borders. It just moves like liquid. Like whatever, like if popular opinion goes to the right, that liquid will go to the right. If popular opinion goes to the left, that liquid goes to the left. If popular opinion stalls, that liquid stalls. And what that means is it's a metaphor for a life without foundational principles. It's a life that doesn't have like foundational principles. And what happens, especially if you're young, you know, is the amount of pressure that's put on you as a young person, whether you're a man or a woman, to just be liquid, man. Just kick it. You know, just chill. Just enjoy life, right? Not really have a purpose. Like, it's scary that like the purpose in life now is like a video game. Like, a video game is not a purpose, it's like something you do, right? That people, you know, are being coddled in a way that they don't really have anchorage. So I think it's very important that we understand the age that we're in. And this is why you see the neoconservatives like reacting almost violently, is because I don't agree with neoconservatism in many ways. It's rooted in white supremacy and privilege in a lot of areas. But there is foundationalism in their beliefs. Like they have, that's why sometimes socially, we may find ourselves as Muslim more in line with like the far right than the far left, or the center left or the center right. And that's because there's anchorage. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes us in the Quran as people that have that anchored foundation. We're not a people who goes like this, that moves according to the situation. Sayyidina Ali alayhi salam said, "La tafrah bil ghina wa la taqnu bil faqr." Right? Sayyidina Ali said, like, don't get happy because you're rich. Don't get sad because you're poor. Like, I mean, be with Allah. Like, you're not like this. Stuff doesn't move you like this. That's part of life. It doesn't control you. That's what he meant. Radiyallahu anhu. But I want, especially our young brothers and sisters, because, you know, studies show that young Americans are much more saddened and depressed about the future than any other generation that came before them. And if you're, you know, young in America and your mom is here, your father's overseas, or you're in that kind of situation where you're trying to hold it together, it's very easy to get caught up in that liquid. If you're a young woman and you're constantly being told that you don't look like Kylie, and, you know, you're like stringently dedicated to IG eyebrows, and like, you know, there's nothing wrong with IG eyebrows. There's nothing wrong with those things, but like, if they begin to consume you, right, and create a value system in you, then you begin to move like this. And you'll lack foundations. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran really identifies 3 areas that we should think about to anchor ourselves with purpose. And before I talk about those 3 areas, because this was supposed to be like a talk for youth, so forgive me. I see, you know, some not so youth. I ain't gonna say old people. I see some not so youth in the audience. You ever made that mistake and called someone an auntie on accident? Like, they never recover, dude. It's like, I'm only 93. It's like, yeah, okay. You're just an on without the T, you know what I'm saying? Like, but, so the talk was, you know, kind of supposed to be something rather light. But, you know, you have to value yourself. And I really want you to think about 3 things. Number 1 is, don't be scared to follow your passion. And one of the challenges I see within the Muslim community sometimes is our attitude towards like our young men and young women. You know, we love our boys, we raise our daughters. That's the problem. We love our boys, we raise our daughters. Baba, can I go to the MSA event? What MSA event? Who's going to be there? Who's speaking? Habibti. Yani, who's the sheikh? Is he married, that sheikh? Yani, it's like when you ask to have like a sleepover, you know what I'm saying? Like, sleepover, right? Same thing happens, right? So who's the sheikh? And like, what's the topic? And, you know, what's the sitting situation going to be like? And how are you going to get there? And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Little boy's like, Daddy, can I go to him and say, yeah, inshallah, khalas, alhamdulillah, yani, no problem, yani, study or, you know, jaldi, whatever, you know, if you're white, hurry, you know, right? Go ahead, son, mashallah, look at my son, Allahu Akbar, alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala atahu ilman, and like, he's growing in his deen, and like, wallahi, my daughter, I don't know, brother. She goes out and she goes to these MSA events. I don't know, I'm losing control, right? So that's what I meant. White folks do that too, don't worry. We just don't have those cool language skills. But we love our boys, we raise our daughters. That's a problem. The second problem is that our young people have dreams and ambitions. And oftentimes we undermine those dreams and ambitions, thinking that the more we intimidate them, the stronger this will make them. You know, the more we intimidate them, the stronger this will make them. But Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to ask people like, what do you dream about? Like, what's your plans, man? And he used to say to the Sahaba, you know, if you ask for Jannah, ask for the highest level. You know, he didn't say ask for the lowest level. He said ask for those al-a'la. You can, you shajji' al-himam. You know, like, encourages people to like want better for themselves. When the Sahaba would struggle to read the Quran, you know, he would encourage him, jawwid al-Quran, like try your best, you know, try to make the Quran sound nice. When they would make wudu, he would say, you know, who makes wudu and does it properly, like he encourages them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes after Salat al-Fajr, he'll ask them like, what did you guys dream about? Like, what is that? Like, you know, what is it that you hope for the future? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see that also with some of the early Muslims, like Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. He used to ask people, like, what are your dreams for the future? Like, what do you plan for, man? And we think of Sayyidina Umar as being like this very aggressive, harsh, intolerable person. Whereas if you look at the hadith of his son, Abdullah, he said, the Prophet said, you know, that in the desert there's a tree, and this tree is like a believer, فَحَدِّثُونِي, so tell me like what kind of tree. He encourages the Sahaba to ask questions. Like today I had 4 or 5 people come in the office. I even had one brother who came, he's like, I'm a Muslim neocon. You know? I was like, dang dude, like Muslim neocon, mashallah, man. You know? But then like we had a good conversation. You know, I don't agree with him, he doesn't agree with me. But then afterwards, he's like, I hope I didn't disrespect you or something, or like, why do you have to say that, right? We've created a community, like even today, a young brother who graduated from Berkeley, walks in after he talked to me after Jummah, basically nonstop, mashallah. Then he comes in I'm trying to check my wife's messages, do the little husband thing, get a little moment, fix everything good. What's up, baby? Okay, cool, we good, right? You're trying to get no trouble. Alhamdulillah, I didn't get in trouble. And then he comes in again, he talks my leg off. I'm like, yo, man, I'm just trying, what I'm saying? It's He doesn't know because he's not married and probably ain't gonna get married for a while, but still, it's brother, you know what I'm saying? I'm joking, he's an awesome guy. But then after that, he's like, man, I'm really sorry for talking so much, and I hope I didn't bother you. And I'm like, man, why do you feel like you have to say that, man? Or the auntie who came to you in the parking lot and she was like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, why? I gotta ask a question, how do we condition a community that has to always say it's sorry for trying to be inquisitive? Where the Prophet ﷺ inspires people and says, فَحَدِّثُونِي, talk to me, tell me what you think it is. And Abdullah bin Umar, he was he wasn't a man yet. He said, فَوَقَعْتْ فِي نَفْسِي أَنَّهَا نَخْلَةٌ. He said, Abdullah bin Umar said, I was a little kid, but I thought it's a date tree, فَاسْتَحَيْتُ, but I was shy, because all these awesome people around me, so I didn't say anything. Then afterwards it came out it was a date tree. Remember that, because we're going to talk about the date tree in a second. And then he's with his father. Sayyidina Umar used to bring his sons to events. Teach them how to be men by being around men. If we leave our kids to be raised by San Andreas, they're going to be like San Andreas, right? If we allow our kids to be raised in our absence, then what has raised them in our absence is going to be what they're like. So then he says, oh my father, oh dad, I knew the answer. I knew the answer was a date tree. And suddenly Sayyidina Umar, he looks at his son gets kind of spooked, uh-oh, it gets shook, oh snap. His father said, if you would have said it, that would be the most beloved thing to me in this world. He encourages him, invigorates him. The Prophet ﷺ did this with young women who were playing instruments in front of his house on Eid day, Jariyatan. And Abu Bakr comes to them and checks them, y'all playing music, blah, blah, blah. Prophet encourages him, he said, carry on, keep going, no problem. Then he says, every community has a celebration. This is our celebration, O Abu Bakr. He encourages them. He doesn't shut them down, doesn't intimidate them. But what happens is if we overparent, right? We're supervisors instead of advisors. We're wardens instead of GPSs. What happens when we overparent? We shut down the natural ability of our kids to be critical thinkers and to have enough guts to chase their dreams. But we should encourage people to chase their dreams. That's the first thing. And what happens is we create a climate of people who constantly question themselves and constantly listen to their fears and constantly give in to those fears. And then that becomes exported to the community. What's the community going to say? And as parents, sometimes I have kids, we worry, what will the community say? People came to my daughter, you're bint Suhaib, you're bint Suhaib. I said, no, her name is Shushu and Shifa. This is not the daughter of Suhaib. This is a person. You need to recognize she's my daughter, don't get me wrong now. But in your eyes, she has to be who she is and uncover who she is. Ahmad Shawqi, who I love Ahmad Shawqi, right? He's a great poet. He mentions the problem of, creating a culture of fear. Because we create a culture of fear. There's a culture of responsibility is different than a culture of fear. Culture of responsibility means we live, responsible lives. A culture of fear means because we give in to our cowardice. And we're no longer brave, and we're no longer pushing the envelope. So it's one thing to escape kind of the family structure that creates fear, but then you got to think about dealing with the Muslims, man. The Muslims will hang you out to dry, dude.
Assalamualaikum. Just sorry for 1 second. Can we just have the brothers move forward? There's a few more brothers outside. We'd like to give them space if they can move over to the left and further forward, please. Assalamualaikum. Sorry about that.
It's like Irvine back in the old days, man. It's like, I mean, I've noticed a great change in the community, mashallah. May Allah protect. So we create a climate of people constantly questioning themselves. And no doubt, you know, there needs to be responsibility, but we need to encourage people, especially in the face of Islamophobia, because now you have a family structure that may be rooted in the ethos of fear. You have a community structure that's rooted in the ethos of fear. And now you have a community outside of our community which is using fear as a weapon against our community. And in the face of these kind of difficulties, we need to be encouraging bravery, ingenuity, engagement, right? Being able to take some steps. Allah says about shaitan, إِنَّمَا ذَلِكُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ يُخَوِّفُ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ. Shaitan tries to make you scared. فَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ. But don't fear him, fear me. Imam al-Ghazali says something powerful, because fear is a powerful thing, man. If fear is in front of you, you can do nothing. But if you can put fear behind you, you can run a lot of races. Imam al-Ghazali said that fear is only good as long as it inspires change. Right? Fear is only good as long as it inspires you to the remedy for the fear. But if fear is for fear itself, then it becomes counterproductive. I remember I played basketball for Blake Griffin's father. Man, I was hoping the Celtics would get Blake Griffin. I'm not gonna lie. Although y'all like the Lakers, now y'all like the Lakers. Y'all didn't like them last year. Lonzo ain't played yet once. If Lonzo's a bust next year, no man, I liked Warriors, man. Steph Curry. Consistency, don't give in to fears. But when I played for Blake Griffin's father, I was 15 years old. I was 6'1". I went to a high school where everybody on my basketball team could dunk the basketball. We had a 5'7" dude named Scooby who could dunk, man, off a vertical leap. It's crazy. Man, you coming down? And I remember they were like, dude, you're 6'1", dude, you can dunk. I was like, no, I can't. So I kept trying, couldn't dunk, man. White boys can't jump, couldn't dunk. So then, we were playing basketball. My teammate told me we're gonna play on lower goals. So I didn't look at the goal. Was it lower? Was it not lower? You know, I just say, okay, it's a lower goal. Threw me the ball, I'm running down the court, bam! Punched it, mashallah. Then I walked over and he was like, I didn't lower the goal. Right, fear, man. Fear can debilitate you. So instead of, and I have kids, I understand this. Instead of parenting to inspire fear, right, parent to inspire the remedies of your fear. Right, and encourage our young people. Ahmad Shawqi mentions this. A powerful poem about fear. He says, كانت النملة تمشي مرة تحت المقطم. He talks about this ant in Egypt in a place called the Muqattam, which are like these hills outside of Cairo. He said this ant was on these hills, was going up the hill, and suddenly the ant realized, I'm on this semi-mountain, and the ant begins to listen to its fears. And the ant says to itself, I'm not an ant. Why am I trying to climb a hill? Like this size. It's like a mountain, miniature mountain. So the ant does what most people do when they get scared, becomes successfully illogical. Runs as fast as it can down the hill, and he says, سَقَطَتْ فِي شِبْرِ مَاءٍ هُوَ عِنْدَ النَّمْلِ كَالْيَمْ. You know, the ant runs and runs and runs like, oh gosh, what am I doing on this hill? I'm just an ant, and falls into a puddle of water. And the poet says, a puddle of water to an ant is an ocean. And the ant begins to drown. And as it drowns, it says, Salamtu fil aqilu man khafa fasallam. Like, why did I listen to my fears? Why did I give in to that? And then Shawqi says, Sahin la takhsha aziman falladhi fil ghaybi a'zam. Very powerful. He said, exactly. Why give in to your fears? Because what you may run into inadvertently is more dangerous than what you feared in the first place. Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik said that I never saw anyone braver than the Messenger of Allah. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said there were times when we would hear things at night in camp and we would get scared. Armies coming to take us out. Who knows what's out there in the desert? He said, and we would see the Messenger of Allah come back on a horse by himself with a sword around his neck. He said he was the bravest person. In fact, one of the obligatory qualities of prophets is bravery. So when you're talking about finding meaning, if you're living your life as an emasculated man, it will be very difficult to find meaning. And if you're living your life as a young girl who's raised and not loved, or we're raising them and not loving them, it'll be very difficult to find meaning in those kind of situations. Look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with young people in general. Whether it had to do with practice, whether it had to do with spiritual mistakes, or whether it had to do with ignorance, he was a motivator. Right? Sometimes he would motivate them out of fear. He's Bashir and Nadir. Right? Sometimes he motivates people, sometimes he fire and brimstone. But for example, when he comes across a young man who committed an egregious sin, and the Prophet sees him in the masjid and he says to him, you know, what's wrong with you? This is a good hadith. And he said, oh Messenger of Allah, I'm a young man who's done things that I'm dead, man. I just screwed up big time. I get to all the time on Snapchat, like, I've done like the worst thing ever. I ate at McDonald's. I'm like, what? McDonald's, dude. I listened to like Kendrick Lamar. Parents weren't in the room. Like, I thought you robbed a bank or something, man. Like, Kendrick Lamar? You know. So the Prophet says to him, like, what's wrong with you? And he said, I've done things. I've made mistakes. He's vulnerable that I'm frightened to mention. And the Prophet says to him, make dua. Allahumma rahmatuka awsa'a min dhunubi. Oh Allah, your mercy is greater than my sins. And my hope in you is greater than the fear I have of my deeds. And then the Prophet ﷺ says this, and this man, this boy says it 3 times, young man. And the Prophet says, Qum faqad ghafarallahu lak. Stand, Allah has forgiven you. Right? He motivates this person, even though this person has fallen. What makes the Prophet unique is he's not a troll. Like, he can turn a bad moment into the opportunity to change yourself. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Maybe it's physical appearance. You know, like, there's so much emphasis on body now. So much emphasis on how people look. People become supermodels now because of surgery, not because of DNA. And if you're a young person, people ask me, what's the biggest change you noticed in the young demographic of Muslims in America through like the Snapchat questions and Instagram questions? I say, on the positive, much more politically active, right? Much more socially concerned, much more broad in their like career aspirations. But then people ask me, what is the most common bad question you get? It's not really a bad question. They actually say, what is the most common question you get? Who can guess? Whoever guesses, I'll give you a bottle of water. Who can guess? What do you think the most common question I get from young people is? Dating. Nope, not even close. People still, we scared our parents, man. Don't date, man. Yes, ma'am. Plastic surgery. The sister is close. Man, she's close. Sister is hot. When hot and cold, whew. Noah. Makeup. Noah is closer than the sister was. Microblading is so close You're on the cusp of glory. This brother, and he gonna get married too, because listen to the answer. Eyebrows. 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 Waxing and shaping. He'll answer that question later. It's the most common question I get. But that's what I've told people. The shift of questioning of young people is far less concerned about spiritual things than it is the physical. Liposuction for dudes. Like he's like 19 trying to get lipo. Like, bro, just like eat clean, dude. Like, you want to see your abs, like eat kale and chicken for like a week? You're 18, dude. Like, what are you, lipo? Right? Can I staple my stomach? How old are you? 16. What do you staple? Stop eating Chipotle, man. Right? Like, you know, so what I've seen is a shift in the concern for the outer than there was with the inner. What that tells you is a community under pressure. Every day I get this question like, nobody likes me, I have no friends, I don't look good, you know, I'm struggling, whatever. And this is happening within the Muslim community, not outside of the Muslim community. If you're someone that's going through those kind of challenges, maybe you have some physical deformities, maybe you're overweight, right? Maybe you have some issues that have affected your appearance, and you're around a community that's hyper-functioned and hyper-focused on looks, even though we say we're not, we are, right? It will be hard to be able to create a personal vision for yourself. But look at the Prophet ﷺ. You know, do you know that the Prophet was suckled by a woman who wasn't even Arab? She was Abyssinian. Ayman al-Barakah. She was the wet nurse of the Prophet ﷺ. She's the only human being who was with the Prophet from his infancy to the time he died. And the Prophet ﷺ used to call her his mother, man. It's like, this is my mother. That's how he dealt with racial stratification in his community. How do we deal with it in ours? Secondly, the woman who used to clean his mosque. Because oftentimes sisters tell me like, man, I really feel like Islam and Muslims are here, and like I'm over here. Like it's like they get to hang out with the sheikh, like they get to ask all the questions, like there's this relationship, but like I'm out here trying to hold it down and I'm like all by myself. Look at this woman who used to, in Sahih Bukhari, clean the Prophet's masjid. Sometimes, like today, I was talking with converts, like we're not even Arabs, we're not Desis. And that applies to other people in the community, right, who are not Arab or Desi. You feel like you're out racially. This woman was not an Arab. She was from Habasha. Sometimes we worry we may have children with disabilities. Like, there has to be people signing for people in the community. We need people signing. We have deaf Muslims, man. You know, I learned this in Boston. We said, you know what, let's bring someone to sign. SubhanAllah, man. We had sisters signing in DC also in our events. And like deaf Muslims were showing up in droves, man. And they were telling me like in sign language, like, thank you. Like we just try to like hope that people put subtitles on Nu'man Ali Khan's lecture on YouTube, dude. Because it's all I got. If you're a parent with someone with autism or epilepsy, like, and I'm not challenging your community, I'm just encouraging. I'm sure you're already doing this. Like, are there spaces for parents that are dealing with kids with autism? Are there spaces for kids that are struggling with certain issues, maybe substance abuse? We can't expect people to launch if we ain't given the pad to launch from. So this woman, she was not Arab. She was from the low socioeconomic totem pole. She had epilepsy. She actually would have seizures in front of the Sahaba, and her aura would be exposed. You know, and she came to the Messenger of Allah in Sahih Bukhari, and she was like, oh Messenger of Allah, I'm sabur, man. Like, I'm patient, but like, can you just make dua that my aura, can you make that dua that Allah will cure me? And the Prophet said, if you're patient, it's better for you. This is the only Muslim allowed to do this. You know how awesome this lady was in her iman? One of our scholars, we studied, the greatest scholars of Sahih Bukhari recently died, Sheikh Yunus from Gujarat. You know, like, one of our scholars told us that every other Muslim has to go find remedies. But this statement of the Prophet was khasa biha li maqamiha. But that this statement of the Prophet was only for her because her wilayat was that strong. Her station with Allah. So she's patient. The Prophet says, have patience. She walks away, then she turns around and she says, can you just ask Allah that my awrah won't be exposed? And then he makes dua for her, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know what this woman used to do? Sometimes we feel it's hard. We may be suffering with disabilities. Our physical appearance may not be there, right? We also may not be from the same high socioeconomic class of people in Irvine. That's normal. How do we treat people like that, man? Do we make them feel, oh, dude, you from Anaheim? Whatever. Like, really? Like, it's like dunya. This woman was poor. She was so poor that she made her own job. You know what her job was? She used to clean his masjid. You know, there's not one report of any Sahabi telling her to get out of the masjid because she's a woman. Even after her awrah was exposed, man. The Sahaba as a community understood how you inspire people is you love them and you care for them. And you give them that opportunity. You know, when she died, the Prophet was away in battle in Bukhari. And he came back and he asked the Sahaba, where's that lady? She was young also. A single mother. Had a small child. Prophet said, where's that woman? They told him, she died. He became upset. He said, why didn't you tell me that she died? And he went to her grave and he prayed janazah on her grave. That's how he makes people feel valued. If you're a Muslim and like you're making fun of people because how they look or their economic status, or like, this is antithetical to prophethood. Sometimes we lose things. Maybe it's divorce. Maybe we've had death in our family. And people, we shun these things. Like, there has to be support groups for divorcees in the Muslim community, man. It's not easy for them. As one sister told me, I became a widow at 28, or I became divorced at 28, sorry. Basically, I'm going to have to live like single for the rest of my life. That's hard to deal with, man. But the Prophet ﷺ, when people lose things, he makes them feel valued. There was a man in the mosque who lost his son. Prophet ﷺ, authentic hadith, he said, like, one day he noticed the boy wasn't there. He said, where's that boy? And they said, that boy died. He said, tell his father to come to me. His father came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, your son is waiting for you in the doors of Jannah, and he refuses to enter till you meet him. Ala, she had a miscarriage. A lot of our sisters have had miscarriages. It's very difficult. Prophet used to visit Ala. He visited her and he said to her, what's wrong with you? She said, I had another miscarriage. But he visited her, like he cared, man. Gives people the opportunity to believe in themselves so they can launch. Then he said to her, alayhi salatu wassalam, as you struggle to keep that baby from being dragged from your womb, sisters that have miscarriages, listen to this, and fathers, he said that baby will drag you into Jannah from the hellfire. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The point I'm trying to make is, the Prophet ﷺ, regardless of physical challenges, economic challenges, ethnic challenges, loss, he makes people feel valued. And when people feel valued, they'll find their purpose. So as a community, I want you to ask yourself this question. As a husband, ask your wife this question. As a wife, ask your husband this question. As parents, ask your children. As children, ask your parents. How can we make each other feel valued? That has to be a core value of this mosque. How we make people feel valued who walk into that front door. Right? What can we do to make sure people really feel like welcome? Like we actually really care about you, right? And you have a leader who can do that. The second thing is, if you're young, understand that young and being young is an incredible commodity. You know, in the Quran, we have this really cool thing where instead of mentioning the pronoun, you just keep mentioning the noun over and over and over again to show how important it is. So, for example, al-qari'atu mal wa ma adraka ma hiya wa ma adraka ma al-qari'a. Keep saying qari'a, qari'a. It doesn't say it. Qari'a, qari'a, qari'a. Yani idharu fi maqam idmar. It's a complicated thing, but it's really cool. For you Arabs, like, oh yeah. Inna anzalnahu fi wa ma adraka ma hiya wa ma adraka ma hiya khayru min alfi shahr aw laylatul qadr, laylatul qadr. Why does it keep saying it over and over again? In rhetoric in Arabic, this is used to show what? Something's important. You need to pay attention to this. If you go to the 18th chapter of the Quran, young folks, and young folks are till 60, by the way. Majority say 40, minority said 60. I'm going with 60. Age ain't nothing but a number. A'udhu billah, sorry, not that guy. But the point is, if you go to the 18th chapter of the Quran, Allah talks about young people. What does it say? أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا إذ أوى الفتية. Right? When those youth. Then a few verses later it says إنهم آمنوا or إنهم فتية. فتية, فتية. 3 times. Youth, 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 youth. Why does it keep saying that? Imam Ibn Kathir said, to show you that being young is an important commodity. Our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Nasrani ash-shabab wa khalafani ash-shuyukh." I was helped by young people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, seven, yudhilluhum Allah ta'ala fi dhilli yawma la dhilla illa dhilluh. 7 types of people will be shaded by Allah on a day when there's no shade but His shade. One of them, shab nasha fi ibadati rabbi. A young person who uses their youth for Allah. Right? In the Sunan of Imam al-Tirmidhi, the Prophet said, the feet of the son of Adam will not move hatta an yus'ala an arba'a, till they're asked about 4 things. Yani on the day of judgment. One of them is what? Your youth and how you used your youth. This is important because at this moment in your life, if you're young, you have the ability to do a lot, but you've got some challenges. The first is, don't listen to those fears, man. I remember when I converted to Islam, my teacher, who I owe a lot to, my first teacher, you know, I had a good memory from hip hop. Like, I had a good memory. You know what I'm saying? You listen to hip hop, just somehow in those days when you could actually understand what people used to say, there was like a very strong rhyming presence within hip hop that just like kind of grabbed you, you know, and you memorized everything, right? You memorized everything. So he was sitting with me, and his daughter, she was Amina, God bless her, she's like 7. She was reading Surah Al-Zukhruf. I'm the white guy convert, you know, I just listen to Surah Al-Zukhruf, I don't even memorize it. And she makes a mistake, and I corrected her, and I was right. And the sheikh looked at me like, man, how'd you do that? I said, I don't know. I heard surah a lot. Then he said to me, man, you need to memorize the Quran. That's how this started. And I was like, I'm white. I know how to use spray tan. Look at our president. I didn't know they made a color called hot Cheeto. But Astaghfirullah. I've been wanting to do that joke for a long time, man. But my wife was like, you're not a comedian, you're an imam. I was like, no, but that joke is on, man. That joke right there. Either that or the dye they put in the biryani. Anyways, biryani die, you know what I'm saying? Shh. Or the chicken tikka die, you know what I'm saying? But, astaghfirullah. You can only do that in Irvine. But, so that's how it started. And when he told me, memorize Quran, I was like, I can't because I'm white. I'm a new Muslim. Like, I'm from Oklahoma. I don't know Arabic. I started making all these excuses. And he said to me, you're going to listen to your sheikh or you're going to listen to your fears? He's like, what's between you and memorizing the Quran is turning off your fears. You know, Allah swears by racehorses. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبَحًا. Those are horses that move. And those type of horses, even in the desert, have a quality. That is, in order for them to move fast, they have blinders on. If you take off blinders off a racehorse, and a racehorse tries to run, what does it start doing? It starts looking around. And when it does that, it falls. If you listen to your fears, or you allow the people around you, not your parents, not people who love you, that's different, right? To create your value, and you listen to them in a way that causes you not to chase your dreams, you're going to fall in this race. So number one is understand your value as a young person. Number two is don't listen to your fears. Two more points and I'm done. There's a system for this. One of my teachers from Mauritania, Sheikh Muhammad al-Hassan, he memorized Bukhari before he was 19. He memorized the Sitta of Sunnah before he was 30. Sheikh Muhammad, we asked him one time, like, man, how did you achieve all this? Like, dude, you memorized Bukhari, dude. Like, what the heck, man? He was like, no, I memorized Bukhari. I finished Muslim. I was like, sorry, whatever. Sheikh, we asked him, like, how did you achieve this? So he said there's two things you need to understand. Number one is you need to understand your talent related to what you can do internally. Like, are you a patient person? Are you someone that's able to deal with people? For example, that's a talent, like he has. Number two, your intellectual talents. Like, do you have a good memory, for example? You know, do you have the ability to do the things you want to do intellectually? And if not, can you find the resources that will help you achieve that goal? And number three is your physical talent. You know, I meet brothers, you know, like 5'3", you know what I'm saying? He asked his brother, like, hey man, what do you want to be? I want to be LeBron, dude. Dude, you 5'3" and 42 years old, huh? Like, how you going to be LeBron, man? Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do whatever he wants, brother. Like, I mean, I get you, but like, you can't say no, right? But it's kind of like, all right, with your Yeezys on and 43. The point is, right, it's not a realistic goal, right? So I've got to make sure that my internal abilities, my intellectual abilities, the resources around me, then my physical abilities are going to give me a good chance of accomplishing the goal I'm trying to achieve. You understand what I'm trying to say? And the last, and we'll finish here, inshallah, is consistency. He can tell you this as an imam. When I used to work in the public, you know, kind of the Muslim community in nonprofits as an imam, well, like every week there would be people coming by my office with like the greatest ideas in the world, man. Imam, I've got this new thing. It's like a samosa made from water. I don't know, man, whatever, right? You're like, wow, dang, dude, water samosa, dude, ching. So this happened to me so much in Boston, because you know Boston is the intellectual capital of the world as well as the sports capital of the world. But it's about them rings, man. So in Boston, as an imam, like every day, it'd be like someone would come by the office, like the greatest new invention. To the point where I actually created a project proposal form. Because I was like, dude, like, stop coming by with all these awesome ideas. Like, do your idea. And then come back to me and share it with me. You know, the first person to ever talk to me about water breathable nail polish. What's nail polish like? It's like, oh, it's breathing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, nail polish can breathe, right? There's a pulse. You know, there was a girl going to MIT. I'm like, she could be a millionaire right now. Inglad's killing it. I remember I asked her, fill out a project proposal, and she did it. I don't know what happened to her idea. But most of the people that would come by the office had no real plan for consistency. So that's the last thing, is that things take time. Change takes time. And as a young person, be patient, man. Be patient. Within that are three things I want you to think about. You've got to learn to love yourself. And I'm serious about this. I know it sounds corny, it sounds cheesy. If I was like 20, all the brothers think I was trying to get married or something, but I'm happily married, alhamdulillah. But seriously, you gotta love yourself. I know there's a lot of people that don't really love themselves. They don't take time to care for themselves. Whenever I come, how many of you follow me on Snapchat? That's not enough. I'm saying, prove that. Whenever I come to California, what can you always expect a snap to come from where? Who can tell me? The beach. Why do I always go to the beach? Where do I live? I live on the East Coast, the Beach Coast. But it's not the beach coast. So me, my own personal therapy is to go to the beach, to love myself, to go to Huntington Beach and jog like a lunatic after Fajr. I love that, man. I called Riaz, my boy Riaz, and I was like, man, this is the most amazing morning ever, man. I got to run on Huntington Beach. That's my self-care. There was a time as an imam where I did not love myself, where I thought to be a good community servant and to be dedicated to the community meant I had to sacrifice everything that I had. And what happened is, you know, at the height of my career in Boston, success, Megyn Kelly attacking me, and, you know, Sean Hannity, like, launching bolos at me, and Muslims like, we're so proud of you. That was the most difficult time of my life, because I didn't love myself. I would come to LA and be like, man, I'm not going to the beach, man. It's tough for Allah, man. I just need to stay in the hotel, man. Sacrifice for Allah. Seriously, we're taught this way. And then I had a friend of mine tell me, man, you need to like love yourself, dude. Like do something. He's like, what do you actually like to do? I said, I don't know. My assistant who I hired said, you know, I'm looking at your calendar. Have you ever heard of something called a day off? I was like, nah, man, that's bid'ah, man. Day off, man. Right? He said, no, man, like you need to take like 2 days off a week. I said, and do what? He's like, care for yourself. So you've got to learn to love yourself and look after yourself and embrace your shortcomings. Certain type of shortcomings you'll never be able to get rid of. For example, losing your hair when you're 40. Just, you got to accept it, man. You know what I mean? Bald is cool now. Right. I have a relative, mashallah, Oklahoma women are very country. This woman is 70 years old and still puts on eye cream, man. Like for wrinkles, you know what I'm saying? This is my non-Muslim family. And she said to me like, oh my God, like, I see a wrinkle. I said, Auntie, you're 79, dude. What do you think is gonna happen at 79? Like, here's an iron, like iron your face. I don't know what to tell you. And she's like, I'm like freaking out because I see this like new wrinkle on it. I'm like, you are 79 years old. Like if I live to be 79, I'm like, I'm good. I can be wrinkled. I'll be a prune. 79 works. She's like, maybe I should get shea butter. I'm like, oh, you're gonna go shea butter on me. No. So a lot of times we don't embrace the things that we can't escape. But those things happen for a reason, to remind us that you're not ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah is ala kulli shay'in qadir. And that's why Imam al-Muhasibi said, Ari nafsik bi tarki tadbir. Imam al-Muhasibi said, Arih nafsak bi tarki tadbir. Like give yourself a break from trying to control everything in your life. Certain things you can't control, you have to embrace it. The last point, and I'm going to stop, is focus on your circle of influence, not your circle of concern. People invert this all the time. What do I mean by the circle of influence? Things I can actually impact. Like right now, I wonder if Pluto is a planet for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if Pluto can like support life. But I'm never gonna find out. I could dedicate my whole entire life to Pluto. Neglect my kids. Neglect my job. Why didn't you show up for the khutbah? Yo, man, I'm reading this thing about Pluto, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't make the khutbah, dude, I'm sorry. Find someone else to do it, right? But when you focus on your sphere of influence, things you can actually impact, you'll find that your life becomes much more manageable and your goals become clear. And the last point, I want young folks to understand something really, really well, man. You are under assault from many angles. And there's some things you can do to help you. Number one is address your doubts. Address them. Once a person came to the Prophet and said, I have doubts about things I'm scared to tell you. And the Prophet said to him, really, really? He said, yes. He said, Dhaka sarihul iman. That's pure faith. The fact that you're babbling, man, that's a good thing in Sahih Muslim. The second thing is have a relationship with learned people. Like, you ain't got to be the most religious person to ask a question. Like, don't listen to like those doubts that you have about utilizing the resources around you. Create that constant relationship. Like, I would encourage you, Sheikh, to have like youth hours. Like, I see office hours. I don't know if you have it yet. Like, the masjid should allocate time where the Sheikh, because he's so, mashallah, gravy, has time just for young men and women. It's incredibly powerful for them. The third thing is surround yourself with people who love you. Right? Don't let trolls into your world. Don't let people come around you that try to like distract the racehorse. You're a freaking racehorse. Why are you hanging out with ponies? Right? And the fourth, and parents, please listen. Learn how to effectively communicate with your parents, and parents, learn how to effectively communicate with your kids. When I say communicate, and I'm a parent, so don't, I got the same screwed up stuff you have. Like, I do the same, don't think it's like I go home and my son's like warming my water for tahajjud, and no, that ain't happening. My daughter had Bieber fever, man, like Bieber fever, man. It's like, I dealt with it. I drove by the stadium, big old picture of Justin Bieber. She's like, are you gonna take me to the concert? I was like, no, man, go Sammy Yusuf. There's some Sammy Yusuf up in there, boy. Some of that Maher Zain. Making it rain with Maher Zain. You know, and then I look back and she's like, I was like, man, why they put that big picture of Justin up there, man? You know, the huge one? You drive by and he's like tattooed up, he's ripped. And I look back and I see this. You know what I mean? I do the same thing as you got to deal with, you know? Trust me, wearing purple. I was like, why do you always wear purple? You know, and I researched it and I found out why she wore purple. I called Lupe Fiasco. I said, look, man, your last name is Fiasco. So obviously you know how to answer this problem. I got a question for you. So I said, man, my daughter got Bieber fever, dude. Bieber fever, man. She want to go to Justin Bieber concert. I got angry. He said something to me, man. I'll never forget. He said, did you ask her why? I was like, why? A'udhu billah. This is a'udhu billah. There's no why. He's like, no, but if you ask her why, it will tell you why. I said, why? But then I had this conversation with her about JB. This is the weirdest conversation I ever had in my life. You know when a parent, you gotta swallow your pride, you're like, no, salawat. I sat down with her and I said, baby, what is it about Mr. Bieber that makes you move the way you move? You know what she told me, man? My baby said, I hope he becomes Muslim. That could mean Ziwaj, though, you know what I'm saying? So it could be marriage. So I said, really, why? She said, you know, have you ever heard this song he has called Pray? I was like, no, I don't listen to Justin Bieber. I like music. Slow down, be humble. So I said, no, what do you mean? She said, Dad, and this is when you realize as a parent, you're gone. Like you just dropped the mic, the worst parent. She was like, it's not all shaitan. There's like good stuff in there. And I said, give me one song. And she's like, pulled out her phone, AKA the greatest rebuttaler ever made. And she plays this song called Pray by Justin Bieber. Anyone heard that song? All the kids are like, my parents here? Yeah, I heard that. They're like, how do you know about slow down, be humble? Where'd you learn that from? Yeah. So I listened to this song by Justin Bieber called Pray. It's the greatest nasheed I've ever heard in my life. If Justin Bieber gets in the nasheed game, it's over. Wallahi, it's over for everybody. This song is about dua. Justin Bieber from the land of Tim Hortons. Talking about making dua. Then she said to me, I said, what's wrong with you? She said, it was good, wasn't it? It was a good song, wasn't it? I said, yeah, but what about his other songs? She's like, no, we're fine. We're good. The point is, by listening to Lupe, you know what I mean, and engaging my daughter, I learned a lot about my daughter, man. I saw a lot of my shaitanic stuff in my daughter, but then I saw this remarkable, awesome person who's like trying to find herself within this kind of maze of America and being, you know, she's multi-ethnic and, you know, straight hair with like oriental eyes, man. She's going through it, right? So, parents, I really want to encourage you to think about communicating regularly with your kids. And communication doesn't mean like, isma, hader, jup karo, be quiet, listen. No. Sometimes you gotta, art of war, you gotta let them get what you want. And you'll learn a lot about them and you'll appreciate their passions. And you'll be able to like see where they're trying to come from. And when they understand that you've like invested in listening to them, they're gonna respect you more. There's a young boy who was troubled in the Muslim community about 4 or 5 years ago. I knew this boy since he was young. He was like that time around 20. He broke into the Islamic school, dude. He was wild, man. He was lit up there, man. Breaking Islamic school, like, let's rob something. Okay, Islamic school, do it. I was like, dude, why would you rob the Islamic school, man? Go, hey, you know what I'm saying? Go rob the Satanists. Rob the Muslim school, man. He's probably got iMac with like, you know, Crescent Academy on it and stuff. It's like, dude. So I sat down with him and started talking. And I said to him, like, what is the one thing I can do to help you? He said, my parents don't talk to me. They talk at me. They don't talk with me. They don't talk to me. That last piece is very important for young people to really be able to find their identity. And for young people that have single parent homes, I believe mentorship models within nonprofits are crucial. We got big brothers and big sisters for people outside. We need big brothers and big sisters for Muslim kids, right? That mentorship model, I saw it in NorCal, the MCA transformed the community. When they brought in a mentorship model, so many young brothers and sisters came back into the community because they found like someone who would listen to them and care for them, engage them. So I'm not here tonight to give you some talk that's suddenly gonna like wake you up. I don't believe in the hitting the home run, your life changes. I believe religion is a process. But I want you to understand, if you're young, don't waste that youth on stupid stuff. They ask a photo shoot photographer who shoots like the Jenners and the Hadids. They ask him about young women. They ask him, what is the goal of these, you know, photos that primarily young women and young men are digesting. Is it to inspire them? He said, absolutely not. It's to make them insecure. There's a study that came out now that said Instagram is a threat to people's mental health. I mean, this is a study. I'm not saying give up. I use Instagram. But like, I'm not like looking at people on Instagram with like 2% body fat and like, I'm so fat. I'm eating hot Cheetos. My life's a dump. Dude, these people have taken drugs, they've gotten surgeries, or they just got great genes. But there are people who are killing themselves looking at Instagram. There's a young girl in ESPN magazine a year and a half ago, went to Brown University, athletic scholarship to Brown, walks off the parking garage to her death. Beautiful girl, writes, I'm ugly, my life is horrible, because she's looking at Instagram all the time. If you're that person right now in the audience who that kind of stuff is happening to you, man, wake up, dude. Like, don't allow that to consume you. So he said, value in your youth, having focus, right? Understanding your internal and external capabilities, right? Surrounding yourself with support groups that are going to love and cherish you and value you. We gave examples of how the Prophet ﷺ, regardless of economics, race, social status, or disability, made people feel valued. The community, one of the core values of mosques, has to make people feel valued, responsible, and valued, right? And then the last thing we talked about is understanding how Islam sees youth as an incredible opportunity. And then we mentioned a few things, right, that are crucial in your growth and achieving your success. And in all of that, I would say the most important thing, parents, is healthy communication. Don't forget, man, they're still kids, like they're still learning, man. You know, that's the scary thing. We dismiss people because they're young, but then when they make mistakes, we blame them for everything. But they're still young. Like they're growing, they're gonna screw up. I'm 45, I messed up today. I don't wanna talk about it, right? But I'm just saying, like, that's a reality. So may Allah bless your community. I think it's important to think about having programming in your community that furnishes the opportunity for parents and children to learn things like conflict resolution. Why don't we have conflict resolution training in mosques? Like, imagine how many fitan would never have happened if people had some background in conflict resolution training. Number two is parenting is a learned skill. It's not something we're just born with. You know, I remember my daughter when she was 2, I was giving her a bath. Dude, she started blinking. I was like, oh my God, it's like alive and stuff. She's like, what the heck? Like, it's real, you know? The toy works. Chucky's back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you realize as a parent, like, oh my God, like, I gotta start praying Fajr every day now, man. Like, I'm a dad, right? And then I realized at that moment, like, dude, I don't know how to do this, right? So I had to go, like, take some courses, read some books. There should be parenting groups in masajid. Supporting each other, man. If you got kids that are in public schools, how are you supporting each other? You got kids in Islamic schools, supporting each other. After school programming, I believe, will be in the future because private schools are too expensive for most of us, right? After school programming is going to become a crucial element of the Muslim community in the coming years, coupled with Muslim athletics. Watch, right? Parenting groups, you can already start to, you know, get together, support each other, help each other, mentorship models. These are things that are going to help these young people, inshallah ta'ala. And finally this, we tried to do this in Boston. Business leaders, people like Riaz, Rayhan, our boy Abdullah, who's, you know, shooting, where's Abdullah, man? Shooting movies, right? You have an opportunity to be great mentors to young people and their career choices. The opportunity to find community partners amongst our parents in their career fields, and then ask our young people, like, if you could mentor with someone, like, for a week or two, corporate law, may Allah forgive you, fine, right? We know a corporate lawyer, right, representing a pharmaceutical company, you know, AKA modern day pimps. You can mentor with this person for a week through the community. It's very powerful. Maybe it's a sports star. I was at the hotel today, so all the, you know, the Chargers are here. Feel sorry for them. Ain't much been charged. They still kind of like a Tesla. It's not charged yet, but we hope for the best. But the point is, well, if you have some Muslim athletes, young people want to become athletes, hey, here's an opportunity to mentor with this athlete. When we had SuhaibWebb.com, remember back in the days, in SoCal alone, we had 44 interns from high school kids. Just like looking for something to do, man, looking for people to be around, right? So last thing is maybe consider, how do you create a parent association that can create partnerships with successful people or any type of people in the community, right, to mentor with, to see, hey, this is my career, I want to be around someone who lives this career. And then they'll know, is this something I can do? May Allah bless your community, inshallah. He told me he don't want to talk, so I just kept going. We'll take a few questions, all the hard questions. We'll give to the Imam. And there's no fiqh questions. See, I know what happens. The guest guy comes, you ask the controversial fiqh questions, and you know he's going to give an answer that might be different than the Imam. And you're like, see, Imam? I don't play that. Yes, yes, brother.
What are some practical ways to depend, to rely on yourself more than others?
So what are some practical ways to rely on yourself more than others? Well, first of all, the most important reason we want to rely on ourselves is so we can ultimately rely on Allah, right? So autonomy is not the goal. But number one is you've got to prepare yourself. If you're not prepared, you won't be confident. So we've got to find out what do I want to do in life? What is my trajectory in life? And I do that well, and I succeed in that, then I can be independent, right? So I think talent, very few people have talent, but skills come with practice, right? So you're developing that skill set and knowing that you invested in it. Secondly, is surrounding yourself with people who don't have to make you feel insecure to find value. You know what I mean? People were like happy for your success. Yes, ma'am. What do you mean by struggling with their American Muslim identity? Like, what does that mean? Like, accept what? Again, I mean, I think if you look at, I talked about fear in the beginning, right? I mean, we have multi-layered fear here. One of the fears is the fear that's been created outside, right? One of the fears that's been created is the fear outside. One of the courses that we plan to offer through my institution for kids is like responding to Islamophobia. Like, their kids are hit with certain questions, man. They're like, I didn't even know, like, my religion thought about these things, right? So I think there's an intellectual component to that. Secondly is a spiritual component. And then thirdly, again, the social setting is very important for people. Like, you know, one of the things I've noticed about communities is we're really good at educational opportunities. We can delay the Isha. Alhamdulillah, it's a sunnah actually to delay the Isha, subhanAllah. As the hadith of Sayyidina Anas. Sunnah is to delay Isha, alhamdulillah. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But it is sunnah. In the hadith it says you have to pray before midnight is weak. So we'll go to midnight, inshallah. But I'm just joking. So forgive me, uncle, forgive me. So we're good at offering like education. We bring the sheikh, we have a Coachella, you know. I would like to see Friday night sometimes in masjids dedicated to social programming. Like hanging out together. Picnics in the park. Laser tag. You know what I mean? Things that involve the community, group exercises that force us to learn how to communicate. Right? Not just bringing sheikhs to tea. This is a one-way engagement right now. How do we take all this talent right here and encourage people like to work together? And, you know, like Riaz. Where's Riaz? Is he here? Riaz. He left. Like Riaz. So for example, Riaz and I didn't know each other 10 years ago. How did I meet Riaz? I was in a gym. You know when you're at a gym by yourself and you see people and you're like, no, I'm good, man, I'm good. You know, you want to exercise because you're scared someone may see you and you'll be vulnerable and you're like, screw up. They'll like make fun of you, but hashtag you're not that important. It's like the whole gym's watching you, right? I met Riaz because our relationship grew because I could lift weights with Riaz and not have to worry about him making fun of me. See what I'm saying? Like, how do we create opportunities, not just lectures and talks, right? where the community can do like, a ropes course together, man. Those kind of events, right, where we're forced to communicate, we're forced to go beyond assumptions, we're forced to actually know each other, right? I think that also is crucial to our young people's experience, right? Young people, by and large, the Muslim community, when you ask them, what do you do, like talks? We listen to talks. Where's that component of like engagement, doing group activities, and like some social time together? Like we did movie nights in Boston. It was really successful, man. Some people got all upset, like, gonna go to the movies and the world's gonna end. Like, yo, we're going to watch like Pet's Life, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pet's Life, But like, well, then people are gonna think dogs are halal. Use Pet's Life, you know what I mean? But then after, we actually would bring a sheikh and like engage and do programming around that. So I think for those young people, they're not necessarily lacking institutional tools. They may not feel valued and loved within the institutions. Right? Yes, ma'am. So this is there's actually a study that came out about, she's asking, what do you say to young people that are called ISIS or, being bullied at school? I think you need to reach out to the administration as a parent, right? I think that has to happen. That has to happen. And then second, I think you should try to get an opportunity to bring someone like ING or the mosque into that classroom and meet with that kid's parents that are doing that and talk to them about, hey, this is who we are, this is what we believe. And then thirdly, I think we need to encourage. It's hard to give an answer to a young person that's having to deal with this, right? You take them out of the school. I mean, as a parent, I've had to deal with, I take my daughter out of a school because of the situation. I think that you've got to really be a supportive influence in their life and then create, if you can, a group of friends around them that can help kind of solidify them and protect them from that nonsense, whether it be at school or outside of school. Come talk to me. My advice is that child, hit me up on Snapchat, we can talk. Because I would need to hear what's going on. And I don't think we appreciate, I'm thankful for your question, what it's like to be a Muslim, a young American Muslim, after a Trump victory. Especially if you're that like 1 or 2 Muslim kids in a public school system. And that's why I think after school programming becomes extremely important now in Muslim communities. You may be suffering, in public school, but you can come here, you could be the coolest guy in the whole school. You have that opportunity. But ask them to reach out to me, inshallah. Yes, sir. That's a good question. I mean, do we raise or love our communities? I think in my history, I went between both. I think there was times when I was very tough, disciplinarian. I think there were times when I was overly compassionate. So I think just like parenting, I think finding that balance is a challenge, right? It's good to have people around you advise you, and not, most imams, right? An imam is a very unique position. Because with great responsibility, with great position comes great responsibility. Imam is the only job I've ever seen in my life where you could be publicly criticized and no one will support you. As soon as you finish the khutbah, you could sit down in your office and either get praised or blasted. I don't think it's healthy. So I think having people around you as an imam that you trust who can say, maybe you need to do this more. Maybe you need to think about this more. Maybe you should consider this more, but in a respectful way. And if the imam doesn't agree with that person, doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. It's just maybe he sees something different. But there's that conversation. So I think as imams, at least I haven't been an imam for a long time. But I think I was very young. I was 28 years old when I was imam. So 28 years old is very ideological, I think it's been a struggle to find that balance, to be honest with you. I don't think I did a perfect job of doing that. at all. Yes, brother. You wanna- So let me just take the first question quickly. He's asking about the rise of the alt-white. It's not alt-right. I don't like how they call it alt-right. It's the alt-white. Right. They play with these words, man. These are white supremacists. You know, Islamophobia is anti-Muslim ideological terrorism. That's what Islamophobia is, right? But he's asking, like, how should we think strategically about addressing the alt-white movement? Number one is, in 2018, we are really going to have to organize to send a message to the Beltway. America is concerning right now because it's almost like apartheid South Africa, that you have a minority of people who keep winning elections. And in many ways, for example, universal health care being an issue, are opposed to what the majority of America wants in the name of preserving white America. Second thing is, as American Muslims, we have to coalition build with people. We're not far left or far right? We're people of ethics and foundations. People that are most aligned with our foundation, best for our community, we'll work with them and good for their community. The third thing is the role of the white convert in all this. You know, Black American Muslims invested an incredible amount of money, history, social status to bring Islam to their people. White American Muslim converts have to start to speak to white people, right? And we need to support and position them in a way to address the mistakes and successes, because all white folks ain't bad, right? But there's a problem that needs to be spoken out to. So I think coalition building and then creating leaders within our community who are able to speak back to their folks, AKA white converts or second, third generation white folks. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khairan wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.